really important to me, and I hope that this affects all of you, not just moms, but I know a lot of us are parents in this room, and success is different to everybody. And so I wanted to grab a selection of agents who have different ideas of what they want their business, their family, and success to look like. And so this is the great group I came up with. So I just want to start at the beginning, and I want you guys to tell me who you are, about how many transactions you do in a year, and how old your kids are.
Kids are right now.
If you can remember all the
Yeah, like
names.
if you know them all.
My name's Chrissy, and my kids are 4, 6, and 8, and we do about 50 transactions a day.
With your husband.
With my husband.
Yeah.
My name is Brenda Gargani. I have twin 2.5-year-olds, and I do about 30 transactions a year.
My name is Amanda. I have 2 kids, 14 and a half, 9 and a half. And I'm a solo agent, and I do about 15 transactions a year.
I'm also Amanda. I'm Amanda Todd, or Amanda number 2. How about that? I have 3 kids of my own. They are 12, almost 15, and almost 17. And then I have 4 bonus babies. So between my husband and I, we have 7. I'm raising my husband's 9-year-olds full time as well. So I started my career as a single mom, and still live as a single mom because my husband and I don't even live together. So the years vary, and I've had varying sizes of teams. We've done all the way, I think our biggest year we did like 290 transactions. I started as a solo agent. So it just kind of depends on the year. And as we go, I have an atypical agent life because I have teams in 3 states. And so I bounce around between 3 states. And I'm also in school full time too. So
To be an attorney.
to be an attorney.
Nice.
I want to be
Yeah. So how long have you guys been in the business? You've been,
My daughter is 6, so it's been 6 years.
I've been in the real estate industry for over 15 years, but I've been only strictly selling for 7. 5 and a half. 7.
so, okay. I'm longer than all of you. This is 10 years. My name's Erica Poindexter. I've been in business for 10 years. I have a 12-year-old and an 8-year-old. So my daughter was 2 when I started. I have pictures of her in my office, like putting Post-it notes on all over everything. And I do about 25 transactions a year. So I guess what was important to me about this panel is that we all do things differently. And I think we see a lot of panels and we see a lot of people who tell us what their success looks like, but they don't tell us how they manage everything. And because I do so much social media, it's this whole world of like, we have to put out this impressive stuff, but nobody ever talks about all of that grind underneath of there that actually makes that shiny Instagram post, right? And so that's just like, we talk about this a lot when a few of us get together or whatever. It's just that like there is some heart in there of balancing everything. So how do you or not make everything work and prioritize your time? Or, okay, so Robin talks about the rubber balls and the glass balls. So I think about this all the time. When I'm like under a lot of pressure and under a lot of stress, which balls do I let go? And which ones can I not let go because they will break? So how do you decide what that is for you in a day?
In a day,
Or a week or whatever?
in general, I have a pretty regimented schedule. I've always worked in the office 3 days a week. I've always been with been with my kids 2 days a week, and on the weekends it's flex. I say it's regimented, but there's always space. I have a 4-year-old watching TV in the office right there. So there's certain things I do every week, which are the office days, and there's certain things, I have an appointment every Thursday morning from 9 to 11:30 where I don't answer my phone, and my clients are like, okay, well, she has an appointment on Thursday morning, and I'm at preschool. So that is something I do and have done for all my kids.
But that's an appointment.
That is
That's my
appointment.
trick too, is that if I've got an appointment with my children, I tell everybody it's an appointment.
And to me, like, I learned that lesson real early on. Someone was like, what are you doing on Thursday morning? I'm like, oh, I volunteer at preschool. To me, that's something that's cool. To a client, that's not necessarily cool when you're in a transaction and you have an appointment at preschool. So I just say it's an appointment. They don't need to know what it is.
But sometimes your client's priorities aren't the same as your own.
Normally or not.
Normally
Yeah.
Carmen.
So in terms of what my schedule looks like, I think there have been different phases of my career of how I balanced and or didn't balance. And so if I think of the previous years, it was like a grind every day, working 7 days a week and kind of fitting in time. And in the last 2 years, I have been more structured about my time, especially with my kids. So it's like Sundays, I don't work Sundays at all. And making sure I schedule that time with my family is pretty important to me. Everything else will work itself out. The transactions always work out what they're supposed to work out, and that's kind of how I do it.
Amanda, one.
So, yeah, I did very much implement strict time blocking, very tight schedule. And it caused me my own stress that I put on myself. And so my rubber balls are other people's expectations, and my glass balls are the expectations of my family and my clients. So if people expect me to be in the office at 8 a.m., I can drop that. My clients expect me to show up for them. My family expects me to show up for them. And the agents that I'm now mentoring expect me to show up for them. And so that's where I adapt my schedule. And it just doesn't make me feel good to drop those balls when I'm trying to balance it all. So I've just learned to think about what is the most important thing to get done today, get that done first, and then I just kind of let the day decide what it needs to do. Let's see what happens. And be at the school at 3 o'clock to pick up my daughter.
Well, and that's the thing, that's one of the important things that I think is a priority. Like, one of my things is like, I take my kids to school every morning. And that's my, like, a time that I don't make appointments before that time. And it's really important to me that we're in the car together and going to school every day and doing our sing along on the way or whatever we're doing.
For me, it sounds like kind of like you, I have some non-negotiables. Same thing for me. I'm the one that picks my kids up from school. I'm the one that drops them off. I'm not on the phone when I pick them up from school because, again, we're talking about being parents here. You only get one time at the end of the day to be at the crossroads for your kids. There's a difference even in 5 minutes between tell me about your day and you actually get the download of what happened for the day, and 5 minutes later, how was your day? Oh, it was fine. It's really important. I've learned that the hard way in times that I realized, my connection might have been slipping with my kids because I was working so much. For me, my secret in getting everything done is I get up ridiculously early every day. And everyone's like, oh, I love to sleep since 12. I love to sleep as well, but I also put a lot of expectations on myself. And I have also, with being in school full time, having teams in 3 states, there's a lot that's piled on me. And and somebody can correct me, but I mean, I've done years where I've done, $100 million in a year. This is a very reactive business that we're in. There are things that do need to be attended to quickly. I tell my teams all the time, we're not cardiologists. Nobody's going to die on our table. That there are no emergencies in real estate, but sometimes there are some urgent things, especially in a hot market like we're in right now. Getting up early and getting those super critical things done, whatever your non-negotiables are. I do Ironman triathlons too. And so I'm on my Peloton and I literally have a desk for my Peloton where I'm reading my textbooks for law school on my Peloton. Like, multitasking is real. I will tell you that. I love the one thing. I've read it like 4 times, but when you're a mom, multitasking is real. But get up early. Get up before the world gets up. Get up before your phone starts blowing up, because then it's okay. I live my day like on offense. I control my day, but in the business that we're in, there are times where there are things that are out of our control that we do need to react to quickly. And if you've gotten up early and gotten those things done really early in the day, it's okay to be reactionary to the rest of your day, and you can still do your non-negotiables. Sorry, that was.
No, it's good.
Hey,
Um,
what's really early?
Yeah, what's really.
I get up between 4 and 5 every day.
I get up at 5.
What time do you go to bed?
Depends on how much homework I have between 11 and 12. So.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Function. I'm the grumpiest person ever.
Honestly, I have noticed the biggest thing for me is how I eat, what I eat. I'm ridiculously disciplined about what I eat because it truly is what fuels your body. And so my mom's a doctor, so I hear about it all the time of how she's like, you can't die before me. But my way I compensate for less sleep is I'm so crazy about what I eat. It really does make a difference if you're living in the drive-through because we live in our cars, or again, planning ahead and having healthy food. It's a huge difference.
So it's kind of the same question and a little bit asked in a different way. Like time blocking and scheduling your week with the kids and life, like are there any like tips on how you plan your week with your kids and work that?
I plan kids, work, kid stuff, husband stuff, family stuff first, and the rest of it fits in.
Yeah, if you've ever taken business planning class with Robin, she'll pull out the calendar and you take your kid's school calendar, put everything on there first, put all your vacations on there, and then schedule business around that. Do you follow that, Carmen?
Yeah, I'm more intentional about the time that I am spending in each department or whatever it is. If I'm at the office, this is what I'm doing. I'm working at the office. If I'm with my kids, I'm sitting on the floor and I'm playing with my kids.
No, I'm very horrible at remembering the school stuff. I have really good mom group friends who are like, oh, I know you're working. Remember, tomorrow they're getting off at 12. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, can you do me a favor and swoop her up? And so I built a tribe. My children are getting, I don't want to say older, but my youngest is almost 10 and my oldest is like a teenager. And so they don't need me like the little guys so much anymore. So part of my work schedule is a non-negotiable now. Every other weekend it's an open house. I'm in the office between 9 and 12. And my husband is the biggest support. He will say, what's your schedule like? Luckily, he owns his own business. So the family is just a good unit. We all work together really well.
I already said mine, getting up early is a big piece. Getting those things done before the world wakes up is huge. Another thing too is like if you are taking bold, I've taken bold and designing your life. And it's okay. I will be the first person to tell you, it's okay for your life design to change as well. There was a period of time where I wanted to be doing 1,000 transactions a year. And my favorite picture, I have it up in my workout room in my house, is a picture of a ballerina with toe shoes on. And one is beautiful and graceful, and the other one are these gnarly mangled. And I was a dancer growing up, so it's symbolic for me as well. And it says everybody wants to be successful until they see what it takes. And, again, getting to those thresholds that I had all these goals to do, and then I did them, and I was like, this shiny isn't as, it looks better than it feels, if that makes sense. And so just know that it's not quitting. It's okay to have those goals and have, XYZ non-negotiable. But then when you're there and you're like, actually doesn't feel as good as I thought it is. It's okay. And like I think Amanda was just saying, others' expectations, make it be your expectations. So set your expectations for what your day should look like. Set your expectations for your goals, and then work backwards to design your day to meet those goals.
And that kind of ties into why like this is like important to me, is that you wanted that 1,000 transactions a year, and sometimes when you get there you're like, what was the cost of that, right? Because you didn't schedule the family time in there with all of that. And doing a big business for me last year, I turned around and I was like, okay, now that I know I can do it, how do I do it better and more efficiently with more time with my family? Because I didn't want to just grind and push and not, and turn around and they be grown and out of the house. Because what are we all doing this for, right? The Life by Design, not to work all of the time. But you do have to put in the work and do all your activities, right? But if you're intentional, so that's something that I've changed for this year as well, is intentional time. I'm not on the phone when I pick up my kids anymore. I'm not on my phone when I'm at softball practice. I'm not on my phone when I'm with my family for family time, because then you're never anywhere, right? You're at work, you're worried about your kids, you didn't spend time with them. You're at softball, you're worried about work, and you're not doing something else. So for me, it was really taking intentional time to say, okay, when I'm at work, when I'm at work, when I'm at home, I'm at home. And that it was hard because I was like, what if there's an emergency? But everybody's fine until tomorrow at 9 a.m., I promise. What was my last question? I guess this kind of goes into the guilt, right? I know for me, it was something that I've had to work on, and it was part of the expectations. And Chrissy and I talked about this the other day, and she's like, I don't have that. I don't have it. But tell me why, tell me why you don't have that.
I changed careers when my middle daughter, the day I was supposed to go back to work, from maternity leave, I was like, I'm not gonna do that today. So I knew, I resigned and decided I was gonna start in real estate full time. It's something I always wanted to do. But I know what I traded for. So previously, when my oldest daughter, I dropped her off at 6:30 in the morning at daycare. I picked her up at 6:30 at night at daycare. I had an hour and a half with her every day. And to this day, it still makes me cry. They don't remember that. They remember having to sit in the back of the car because I'm showing 2 or 3 houses. Suck it up, Buttercup, because we're together all the time. And I'd rather have that. And I don't have any guilt for the things that there are things that we do together. Sometimes they gotta sit in a minivan with an iPad. My kids don't get a lot of screen time. And so the trade-off is when we do have to show the 1 or 2 houses, they get to watch the iPad and they love it. So, that's a good trade-off. And I don't feel guilty about this. Right? Like, they do, but yeah, that's a good trade-off. And I remember so vividly what it was like not to be present in their life, that the sacrifices that we make now, I don't feel guilty about that. And they live a dang good life. I tell my kids, you like that vacation, didn't you?
For me, I shifted my why. I think that was a big thing for previous years. I was such a grinder, and I didn't even think about how it affected many different areas, not just with my kid, but with myself. There was no self-care whatsoever. I don't usually, when I'm working a lot, self-care is usually the first one to go. And I would sit with my coach every week and I'd be like, what's my why? And it's like, well, God, family, work, self-care. And it was like, but in reality, that's what I wrote down, but that's not the order of what I was doing things. The order was work every day of my life, fit in God occasionally, spend time. And I felt like I had a foot in family life and a foot in work, but I was never present for either. And I think that's why being intentional is so important, getting up early, spending that time for yourself with God, whatever that is for you, and making sure that you're balancing all of that. And is it easy? No, there are days that I don't do that. There are plenty of days that I don't do that. Today's a perfect example. I did not sleep a wink last night, not 1 minute last night. I was so tired. I dropped my kids off at school and I knew I was gonna be here at 11. I went home and I took a nap because I knew I had a long day. I'm not gonna get home till late tonight. And so it's like making sure that I'm also taking time for myself is just as important as the family life. And it's usually the first to go.
For me, my biggest guilt wasn't really my children, it was my husband. We started our first business together, and I was a huge part of running the behind the scenes of that business. Almost to where he was just very catered to as a business owner and didn't have to really do the hard things like scheduling and answering his phone. So when I started real estate, I wasn't as present, and that caused a lot of marriage tension. And we just had to get realistic on, listen, we need this other opportunity in our lives. I need to be the one to take it on. So you need to take on more of this role. So our roles changed in our marriage when I started being more successful and more busy in my business. And I think a lot of times it changes with the children, but we don't realize how it's going to change who we were in our relationships. And so that took a few years and super good now. And he actually has built the business even better because he has taken control of it. And we're both way happier in our businesses than we ever were before.
And Wednesday night softball.
Yeah, so we also don't date each other as much, which is a huge problem. We met when I was 18. We've been together so long that we're like this old married couple. So I signed us up for co-ed softball. So our date nights are on the softball field now.
Oh, mom guilt. I mean, what mom in this room, or dad, sorry dads, but I think moms especially were really good at beating ourselves up. And like you were saying, airplane syndrome, oxygen mask, put your oxygen mask on first. It's probably one of the very hardest things for us to do, but it is real because you can't fill someone else's cup out of an empty cup. And so I learned to get rid of guilt by also not letting other people put expectations on me. Because if you really think about it, guilt is typically from us feeling like we're not meeting other people's expectations. And I'm going to tell you this, every single one of us are human beings in this room. You will never in your life meet everyone's expectations. My oldest is about to graduate from high school. And I also feel like as parents, we really wrap our lives around our children's lives. And another piece that I learned to overcome guilt was also learning for my joy and my happiness to not be tied up in my kids' decisions. And so in learning to send my babies, because I have 2 in high school, send them off to fly and letting them have their own journey. At first I felt guilty about that. So obviously if you have toddlers,
I'm not ready for that.
you get to
one.
make
My
the
daughter's 12.
decisions for them still. But as I'm learning to be a more whole person, learning that my happiness and my joy doesn't come from anybody else's opinions or anybody else's expectations on me, and that I get to do what I'm going to do. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a super connected and super present mom. It actually has made me a better mom because it's made me be more supportive of my kids learning to set their own goals. And then I just get to sit there and be their cheerleader. So to get rid of guilt, get rid of placing a priority on other people's expectations of
That's a big one.
you.
And that whole sending them off to fly thing with a 7th grader this year, I'm like, I cried
over
tears
the
up. Every year they're like,
It's real when they're a senior, let me tell you.
and I, everyone's like, oh, I cry every single year I drop my kids off at school. It's awful. I'm like, kindergarten, you think that's the last time? No, man. No, every year it's like, no, they're bigger. I guess the last thing, just for the last couple minutes, is if you had to tell yourself in the beginning of your real estate journey one thing, what would it be? What would it be?
Do the dang thing, whatever it is. I remember when I was new and everybody tells you, put your people in a CRM. I was like, yeah, sure. 6 years later, someone's got to take time to put those people in a CRM. So I think I would have just listened to people. I got a coach, I think, in my 3rd year, but those first 2 years I would have sped up if I would have just done what I was told.
That's my first 8 years.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. If they were wrong, oh
It's
well.
not too late to get better.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I told myself. I think I was so immature. But I didn't listen to my dad. I think my dad's been in real estate most of my life too. And so it was kind of like I would watch him and I thought I was gonna do it better. very successful, and so I had to do it my way. And what I found, if I had listened and come to him sooner, I would have had a more successful business earlier, and I would have had more time with him working together.
For me, it would have been to just trust my instincts a lot more. I found through trial and error that I have real amazing instincts, and I would let myself question if what I was feeling was right, and really took a long time to get where I needed to be. So just trusting myself more.
I could tell myself one thing at the very beginning, gosh, I started my career as a single mom with 3 babies and came from being a stay-at-home mom into real estate. And if I could go back and tell myself, probably one thing is, it's going to be okay. You're going to do well, and it's going to be okay. I can't think about how many nights I've laid awake just thinking I'm working in a commission-only job and I've got nothing. I didn't have child support, I didn't have spouse support, I had nothing. And I was like, can I do this? And to just tell yourself it's going to be okay, and really truly fake it till you make it. People will give you the amount of respect that you command. So carry yourself that you are the professional, that you are the one they are going to work with, that you are the best person to handle their needs, and they will reciprocate that with the level of professionalism that they treat you with. And you will have their business because you will walk in there that there's no other way that you will have their business. So just remember that you are the best equipped person to be standing right there in front of that person to handle one of the most major steps of their life.
Cool. You guys have any questions? So
Yeah.
while we have a couple minutes, any
Couple
questions you guys might have?
Robin, this is the interactive part.
That's my favorite thing.
So thank you, ladies, for sharing your stories and your journey and experiences. Congratulations to all of you. So a question for Amanda, with regards to eating and your behavior and the new habits that you have, how do you know when you're off track from the new habit and going back to that the old behavior? And what new habits have you raised in the last year to help have that success?
For me, I notice in my mood, if I'm being grumpy, and again, having teenagers, they have 0 filters. So they're like, mom, what's your deal today? It's how I am feeling. What I eat is everything. And so meal prepping is my #1 secret. And if you get off track, I think it's so easy to be like, oh, well, I screwed up for today. And then you're like off. And then it's, oh, I screwed up yesterday. And so then you're off. It's never too late to get back to where you were at, to get back to the good habits. So I don't know if I'm answering your question very well, Paul, but for me, it's just doing my best and then knowing that I'm also not going to be perfect at it and just picking back up to where, instead of letting myself just continue to fall and spiral down. It's never too late to start back over.
Is that meal prepping is that the day before? Is that 3 days before?
I usually meal prep about every 4 days because I also have an autoimmune disorder that's a mold illness. So as weird as it sounds, I actually can't eat leftovers that are very old. So I actually can't meal prep very far in advance either. And so I meal prep like every 3 or 4 days.
Thank you.
Emily had one.
I have a question for Carmen, because you were a kid growing up with a parent in real estate. So what was that like as a child, whereas we're all talking about our kids, right? What was that experience for you, good, bad?
You ended up here.
Yeah. I followed my dad's footsteps. I think when you talk about going to open houses or showing appointments, I spent plenty of time at an open house or on
Delivering
flyers. Yeah, delivering flyers, door knocking with my dad. I did a Mike Ferry conference in high school with him, going like being a part of that. And I think it was inspiring. I also saw things that I wanted to do differently for my own family, where it was like my parents worked all the time. And I know I'm just as guilty as doing that. And so trying to consciously be aware of that is super important to me, because I don't want to fall into that behavior, because I do cherish the time. That's why I have my husband join me. I'm never leaving. Yeah, we spend all the time.
Anybody else have anything? We're just like right on time. Anybody else?
I'll say one thing too about, I don't know I don't know all of you really well, but specifically Chrissy and Carmen, you guys let go of some things in the last year too, by hiring help around you. I know Anna's great at leverage already, so
I think,
there's that piece too.
yeah, Erica was like, one of the questions, and I was like, do not ask me how I balance it off, because that is a lie.
There's no such thing as balance.
There is no such thing, and my house is either messy or super clean the house, day the housekeeper comes. Or you find a laundry service, or it's okay not to go grocery shopping. Like, what is it for you that it's okay to let go of? And I have let go of a lot of stuff this last year.
Just a piggyback on that, like Instacart's okay, a housekeeper's okay, not doing your own laundry is okay, asking your husband or partner for help is okay. And I think that's the expectations thing again, is that as moms, sometimes the world expects us to do everything, yet it's okay if we choose, I choose to lead generate and do my business and my house is a mess, and that's okay with,
The 80/20.
Yeah.
The 20%.
Right, and what's okay for you is different
With your family
than
and
someone
business.
else.
What's that doing? But nobody else can date my husband, so I better be there.
Super valuable. I think that there was a point in my career where I thought I had to do everything because nobody does it like Carmen does it. And in reality, there are plenty of people that are specifically good at that role and to take advantage of what they're willing to offer. And in turn, you're lifting somebody else up while they're lifting you up. So in turn, it works out.
I think in part of it too, in order to have a successful real estate business, there's like 86 components to it. And I learned that even if somebody maybe didn't do it as well as I did, it's better that it got done, even maybe halfway, because we can't do it all. Like, to run a successful business and be a high producer, you can't do every piece of it. So you have to learn that doing something imperfectly is better than doing nothing flawlessly. So just remember that too.
Flawlessly in your mind.
Yeah.
So well.
Exactly.
And never do it.
Exactly.
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of things that sit on my desk that I can do really super well that don't.
Yeah.
Because no one else is picking it up. Oh, well, that's our timer. I hope that was of value to you guys, and I hope that it, made you really take a look at, your priorities and how you can set that up. So thank you so much.
Well, show gratitude. All the We got to go away, but so thank you for your leadership on this, Erica. Hopefully you guys got value. Whether you are male or female, I got value out of that conversation. So I thank all you guys for what y'all had to share. If you guys brought food, now's a good time to go get. I know there's some food out there already, but if you brought hot food for us to share today, go ahead and get that thing set up. In a few minutes, there'll be food out there in the agent lounge. Bye.
And it turns into a disaster. Oh yeah, there was like 10 of them that came out at 10. And I was like, I'm not. No, they're not great. I didn't want to bring them. I went to
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Amanda. Thank you.
Oh, what?